A man went to see his physician because he wasn't feeling well. "Doctor," he said, "I'm suffering from a dark and unshakable depression. Nothing I do gives me any relief. I am overwhelmed with pain, and most days I can't even make it out of bed. Doctor, what should I do?" The doctor thought for a moment, then offered the following treatment plan. "This is what you need to do. Tonight, go to the theater where the great Carlini is performing. He is the funniest in the world, and everybody who sees him finds him to be hilarious. By all means, go see Carlini. He is guaranteed to make you laugh and drive away your depression." Upon hearing these words, the man burst into tears and sobbed uncontrollably. "But doctor," he said, "I am Carlini." Yes, it's an old joke, and of course we laugh. But at the root of the humor is its truth. We've all been through a few really difficult years. Many in our community have been challenged by illness, isolation, uncertainty, canceled plans, caring for loved ones, professional struggles, and strained relationships. Medical personnel and mental health professionals have been overwhelmed by the need for their services and counsel. The past 2 years have frankly been a struggle for even the most resilient among us. But pandemic aside, mental health challenges have always existed. Unfortunately, they have been, and still very much are, kept hidden in the shadows. The stigma of any health concern other than a physical one still makes people a little bit uncomfortable and perhaps even afraid. But let's be clear, mental illness can affect anybody. It does not discriminate. And I know that as I think about our community, that it touches so many of our loved ones. 1 in 4 Americans, 1 out of every 4 of one of us in this room or online will be affected by some form of mental illness during our lifetime. Judaism has always understood this, that physical and mental illness are equally deserving of healing. In scanning through generational Judaism, we find biblical markers that remind us of this. Moses cried out to God, "I can no longer bear the burden of this people alone. It is too heavy for me. Please kill me. Let me no longer see my own wretchedness." And the story of King Saul is that he struggled with troubling psychological and behavioral symptoms, suffered periods of severe melancholy, behavior impulsivity. He flew into rages, was suspicious and ultimately despairing. And when his army was defeated by Philistines, he asked his attendant to kill him so that he would not be captured by his own enemies. And when he refused, Saul fell on his old sword and ended his own life. And in the Talmud, we read the story of Rabbi Eleazar, who is suffering from deep despair. He cannot even bear to see light, explaining to his friend Yochanan, "I weep because all light fades into darkness, because all beauty eventually rots." Yochanan, sitting beside his friend, takes his hand, lifts Eleazar up from his bed, and carries him out of the darkened room. Sometimes, the Talmud teaches us, the best way to help people who suffer is just to be present with them and accompany them both through their darkness and into their light. And sometimes we must also try to look beyond the face that people present to the world. For example, I recently noted a new album of family photos posted on social media by one of my friends. These gorgeous professional photos portrayed his family as happy and wholesome and all-American in its perfection. I won't deny that I was a little bit stunned as I looked through the album, because I knew the reality was that this family was actually in a really rough state. My friend had confided in me that he and his wife were usually at each other's throats and hadn't been happy in years. But just like the digital photos to the outside world, they seemed picture perfect. No one would suspect the dysfunction and the sadness within their home. They presented a facade, and no one was the wiser. Kim Geringer, a noted rabbi and social worker, once stated, "Everyone has a story about their life that would break your heart." And while I'm certain this to be true, what is so despairing to me is that these heartbreaking stories are often so hidden. So what are we trying to protect exactly? What would happen if we removed the "I'm just fine" mask we wear and hide behind? Why does it feel so risky to reveal how we are really feeling? Geringer also explained that secrecy grows out of the illusion that other people's lives are perfect. We keep secrets because we are afraid that if we don't, we will be viewed as different, freakish, and perhaps worst of all, failures. And that other people, all those other perfect people with perfect lives, will abandon us, leave us horribly alone with nothing but our shame. The paradox, of course, is that most of the time, it's actually the other way around. In keeping secrets, that is far more likely to leave us isolated, without help or support, and horribly alone. So I would suggest that perfection is unrealistic and certainly unattainable. It seems to me that true godliness is our ability to shine a light on our perceived imperfections, our psychological struggles, and seek help to become the best and healthiest versions of ourselves. Maybe if we just accept ourselves just a bit more and become less afraid to address our struggles and right our wrongs, then perhaps we might find ourselves a little bit closer to God. After all, God would only have put repentance in the world, knowing that at some point we might all need it. As our bar mitzvah Daniel taught us so beautifully this morning, this week's Torah and Haftarah portions focus on the details of our portable sanctuary, our ark, and King Solomon's temple, later built in Jerusalem. We learn in exquisite detail how the ark of the Mishkan should be assembled, offering a veritable blueprint of materials, dimensions, and structural needs, expressing the importance of covering the external, most viewed surfaces of the ark with gold. However, we are also commanded to cover the internal, scarcely seen surfaces with solid gold. One might ask, is this a waste of precious, expensive metal? But I pose this question instead. What if the Torah was offering us a lesson, an instruction in well-being? Perhaps to be a truly healthy person, a person who is built well, we must spend as much time gilding and enhancing our internal thoughts and feelings as we do to the external face we show to the world. The Haftarah tells us that King Solomon's temple was built with rough, unpolished stones, perhaps offering us insight that even the most sacred of spaces, be it a temple or our minds, are imperfect, with edges that will always need reshaping, that can always be improved. Our traveling ark, we learn, must also be topped by statues of winged angelic guardians called cherubs. And as Exodus 25:20 instructs, they shall face each other. The symbolism is explained as God's desire for humans to protect and care for each other face to face, panim al panim. Famed theologian and philosopher Martin Buber builds on this as he notes, when two people relate to each other authentically and humanly, God is the energy that surges between them. Friends, I know that I speak for all of my colleagues when I say that we are here. We are here for you, to support you, and to be a resource to you. Temple Emanu-El offers support groups and weekly meditation groups for anyone who might want that vital face-to-face connection that God desires for us. Both deeply personal and profoundly contemporary, Dear Evan Hansen tells the story of a painfully anxious boy struggling to find his place in the world, kind of like most bar mitzvahs we know. As the song You Will Be Found tells us, when you don't feel strong enough to stand, reach out your hand. Shabbat shalom. Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear?
So let that lonely feeling wash away, 'cause maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand and know
someone will come running,
and I know
they'll take you home.
even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again.
Lift your head and look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. Out of the shadows, the morning is breaking, and all is new. All is new. It's filling up the empty, and suddenly I see that all is new. All is new. You are not alone. 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 You are not alone.
Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need someone to carry you, when you're broken on the ground.
You will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. Even when the dark comes crashing through, you will be found. You need someone to carry you. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
You